Have you ever wondered why you keep falling for the wrong people? As if something is pulling your strings behind the scenes. That's not coincidence. It's a curve in your mind, invisible but deadly. And before I take you deeper into this strange curve, pause for a moment. If you've ever felt trapped in a cycle of attraction, if this already feels like it mirrors your life, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and share this with someone who needs it, because what you're about to discover might just explain everything you never understood about yourself. Now, let's begin. There is a curve that most people never see. It doesn't appear on maps of life, and no teacher warns you about it. But it exists quiet, invisible, and waiting. At first, it looks harmless, like any ordinary turn. But when you step into it, you don't come out the same. This curve doesn't change your direction, it changes you. It begins with attraction. You meet someone and feel a pull you can't explain. The chemistry feels electric, almost faded. But underneath, something else is happening. Your mind is replaying old wounds, hidden fears, and forgotten memories, packaging them as love, passion, or desire. You don't realize it, but the person you can't stop thinking about may not be your soulmate at all. They may be a mirror of the deepest, most unresolved parts of yourself. That's why the curve is so dangerous. It doesn't reveal itself through logic. It hides in emotions, in longing, in the desperate need to feel whole. Every smile, every glance, every touch feels like destiny, but it's really the trap tightening its grip. And once you're inside, you lose track of time. Days, weeks, months pass, and you don't notice the shift. The curve has reshaped you, altered your choices, and blurred your judgment. What felt like love might actually be an echo of your own pain. Most people never see this curve until it's too late. But here's the truth. Once you learn to recognize it, once you see the trap for what it is, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. The truth is, attraction rarely comes from the present moment. It comes from the past. Deep inside, your mind is an archivist storing every smile you longed for, every rejection you endured, every secret fear you buried. And when you meet someone new, that archive quietly flips open. You don't fall for them as they are. You fall for the story they awaken inside you. Sometimes it's the comfort of a familiar voice, a laugh that reminds you of someone you once lost. Other times, it's the sting of a wound you never healed, now disguised as passion. What feels magnetic isn't just about who they are, it's about who you once were. That's why the curve is so treacherous. It convinces you that you've found the one, when in truth, you've stumbled into a mirror of your own unfinished chapters. The thrill, the butterflies, the rush, they're not signs of destiny. They're signals of recognition, your subconscious whispering, I know this pain. I know this longing. I've been here before. And you chase it, without realizing you're chasing yourself. Think about it. How many times have you thought, this person feels so familiar, even though you've just met them? That's the curve at work. It doesn't lure you with logic. It lures you with memory, with the ache of something unresolved. But here's where it gets darker. The more you lean into that attraction, the more the curve bends. It reshapes not only how you see the other person, but also how you see yourself. You start believing you need them to feel whole, as if they hold a missing piece of your identity. And once you've reached that point, stepping back feels impossible. This is why so many people mistake trauma for love. They don't see the trap, they only feel the intensity. And by the time they realize the truth, the curve has already changed the course of their lives. Here's the unsettling part. The people who pull us in the strongest are often the ones who reflect our deepest shadows. It's not their beauty, their charm, or even their words that hold us captive. It's the way they awaken forgotten feelings, the echoes of our earliest attachments, the bonds that shaped us before we could even understand them. Psychologists call this repetition compulsion, the hidden urge to replay old wounds, hoping for a different ending. That's why you might be drawn to someone who is distant, unreliable, or even unkind. Your conscious mind sees attraction, but your unconscious mind sees a chance to rewrite history, to finally win the love you once lost. And this is where the curve tightens its grip. What begins as chemistry quickly turns into obsession. You overlook the red flags, dismiss the unease, and convince yourself that this connection is special. But underneath, it's not love, it's a psychological loop. A trap designed not by fate, but by your own hidden patterns. Ask yourself, have you ever been irresistibly pulled towards someone who, deep down, you knew wasn't good for you? That pull wasn't random. It was memory. It was your nervous system recognizing a familiar kind of danger and mistaking it for desire. The curve works silently. It doesn't announce itself. You don't wake up thinking, today, I'll chase my unresolved trauma. Instead, you feel butterflies. You feel fire. You feel like you've met someone who gets you in ways no one else has. But the truth is, they don't get you. They simply activate the parts of you that have always been waiting to be seen. And that's why walking away feels impossible. It's not rejection of them. It's rejection of your own unfinished story. That's the cruel genius of the curve. It doesn't trap you with chains. It traps you with hope. Here's where the curve becomes most deceptive. It convinces you that the intensity you feel must be destiny. After all, how could something so powerful, so overwhelming, be anything but love? But intensity is not intimacy, and chemistry, no matter how electric, is not proof of compatibility. Think about it. If attraction were simply about love, why would it so often point us toward those who can't give us what we need? The truth is, the curve feeds on familiarity. It draws us to what we've always known, not what will truly help us grow. That's why breaking free feels like betraying yourself. Because the pattern is written so deeply into your nervous system, the letting go feels like losing a part of who you are. This is why so many people spend years chasing what can never satisfy them. Not because they don't know better, but because the curve whispers, this time it will be different. This time you'll heal. And so the trap resets again and again. And listen, if you're rehearing this and realizing how much of your own story lives inside this curve, pause for a moment. This isn't just a concept. It's your life. If what I'm sharing speaks to you, then make sure to subscribe to this channel. Not only will it help you untangle these hidden traps, but it also ensures that others who need this perspective can find it too. Share it with someone who keeps falling into the same painful cycle. Sometimes one insight is enough to shift an entire life. Because once you see the curve for what it is, you can no longer be fooled by it. And in that awareness lies freedom, the kind of freedom that makes space for real love, not recycled pain. The most haunting part of this curve is how invisible it is while you're standing inside it. You believe you're making choices freely, yet something older and deeper is making them for you. You mistake compulsion for chemistry, obsession for devotion. And by the time you realize it's a trap, the pull has already woven itself into your thoughts, your emotions, even your body. Notice how the mind works here. It begins to justify the attraction. You create stories. They're different this time. No one has ever understood me like this. We just need to get through these challenges and everything will change. But these stories are not the truth. They're the camouflage that keeps you walking deeper into the trap. What makes the curve so dangerous is its timing. It doesn't lure you when you feel whole. It appears when you are most vulnerable, when loneliness is heavy, when self-doubt creeps in, when the hunger to be seen becomes unbearable. At that moment, the attraction doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like salvation. But salvation never comes from reenacting old wounds. Healing doesn't happen by clinging harder to what broke you. And yet, this is the paradox. The very thing you're drawn to is the very thing that prevents you from breaking free. So if you've ever wondered why you keep ending up in the same story, with the same characters in different faces. Know this, it's not weakness, it's wiring. And until that wiring is brought into awareness, the curve will keep bending your life in directions you never intended to go. The real question isn't, why does this happen to me? The real question is, what would happen if I finally stepped outside the curve? Stepping outside the curve begins with recognition. Noticing the pattern is the first act of freedom, but recognition alone is not enough. Because the trap doesn't just live in the mind, it's etched into the nervous system, into memory, into the very rhythm of how you connect with others. That's why attraction feels so powerful. It isn't just about who stands before you today. It's about echoes of yesterday. The curve disguises itself as passion, but at its core, it is unfinished business, an ancient story your heart keeps trying to complete. Imagine it like this. You're walking into a room, and before you can even think, your body knows who it will lock onto. Your mind may come up with reasons. They're smart, they're funny, they're beautiful, but the truth is deeper. Your unconscious already recognized something familiar, something that mirrors your earliest experiences of love, safety, or even neglect. And familiarity, even when it's painful, feels magnetic. This is why so many people say, I knew they were the one the moment I saw them. But what if what you knew wasn't destiny? It was déjà vu. What if that instant spark was simply recognition of the curve repeating itself again? The trap is that the curve feels inevitable, like gravity. You don't walk into it. You fall. And because falling feels effortless, it convinces you that it must be right. But freedom, unlike falling, demands effort. It asks you to pause where you would usually rush, to question where you would normally surrender, to stay awake where you are tempted to dream. Here's the paradox. True attraction doesn't pull you into a prison. It expands you. It makes you more alive, more awake, not less. The curve shrinks you into an old script, but love, the real kind, writes a new story. The curve only loses its power when you see it for what it truly is. Not fate, not destiny, but repetition. Once you recognize that, you gain the ability to choose differently. You don't have to keep walking into the same walls, mistaking them for doors. Healing begins with awareness, but it deepens through action. That might mean learning to sit with loneliness without rushing to fill it. It might mean questioning the voice that says this is love when really it is fear disguised as longing. And it definitely means daring to believe that relationships can feel safe, balanced, and alive without the chaos that once defined connection for you. Here's the secret. Real intimacy doesn't burn you out. It builds you up. It doesn't replay your wounds. It helps you heal them. The right connection won't feel like losing yourself. It will feel like finally being seen. But stepping into that kind of love requires courage. The courage to break the cycle. The courage to rewrite the story. And the courage to choose growth over familiarity, even when familiarity feels magnetic. And if this message stirred something in you, if you recognized yourself anywhere along this curve, then don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel, because together we're exploring the patterns that shape our hidden lives. Like this video if it resonates, and share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. You never know whose story might change because you passed this along. Freedom isn't about escaping attraction. It's about transforming it. When you understand the trap, you unlock the door. And on the other side of that door is not just another relationship, it's a new way of living. So the real question is, will you keep following the curve, or will you finally step beyond it?